infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. There is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Good morning, Bitcoin. Today is Friday, June 26th, 2020. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is the World Crypto Network. The price of Bitcoin is down 0.79% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,185, a high of 9,349, and a low of 9,054. That's $1 for 10,886 Satoshis. Volume was about normal for a weekday on a Friday, with 3,604 Bitcoins changing hand. The market continues to lean long at 80%. Bitcoin dominance is at 65.24%. It's also worth noting we have had a bit of a possible recovery just in the last 5 minutes or so. When I was about to start the show 5 minutes ago, the price was around $9,075 down here, as you can see. We had a small green candle followed by a large green candle, pushing the price all the way up to $9,182, our current last price. It looked like it topped out in the 9,170s. It looks unlikely to break the all-important 9,200 number. As we said yesterday, analysts had predicted if Bitcoin broke through and couldn't hold 9,200, it may dip lower, perhaps 7,000, perhaps even 6,000. If it doesn't hold this number. We can see right now the candle is not being filled in. It's retreating slightly to 9,175, but we're keeping an eye on the Bitcoin price. It is possible that the price of Bitcoin may go down. We're also looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which has been tracking with the price of Bitcoin. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 2% so far this morning, with a last of 25,239. That's down around 505 points. Ouch, that's a lot. Bitcoin dropping to $6,000 golden pocket isn't bearish, says trader. A classic Fibonacci retracement could land Bitcoin at 6,300 or lower and still not disturb the long-term trend. Bitcoin could crash to 6,000 and still remain bullish, according to one trader on Twitter. Great job, Cointelegraph. A popular trader known as Steve Crypt0 offered an alternative to the bearish sentiment coming from markets this week. He says 6K is healthy correction, with BTC/USD circling 9,200, and analysts are broadly risk off. Broad correlation with ailing stock markets has sparked multiple warnings that a failure to keep support at current levels could spell a fresh downturn. For Steve Crypt0, though, however, a worst-case scenario would not necessarily spell the end of the Bitcoin bull case. Bitcoin could hit 6,300 or even lower and still retain its overall uptrend. The reason lies in the fact that a Fibonacci retracement level lies at 6,340. In fact, he says, it would be a healthy correction right into the golden pocket of the 0.618 fib level. Bitcoin's following the stocks downhill. As we all know, stock markets are being driven down by the failure of the Trump administration to respond to the coronavirus. The failure to do anything, even extending the lockdowns by 2 to 6 more weeks. Instead, we reopened, we drove the virus up, and now the economy is really ruined. And wait till you try to get people back outside after this, after you told them to go outside and it wasn't safe. Demand is in major trouble. Retail's toast, demand's gone. Who's going to buy anything? Who's going to sell anything? Who's making any money at all right now? Nobody. Legendary investor Jim Rogers warns governments will have to eliminate Bitcoin. Well, I don't know how they would do that. It's a nice idea, though. If the cryptocurrency succeeds as real money, rather than the subject of gambling as it is today, The government will make cryptocurrency illegal and eliminate it. Obviously, he's never heard of BitTorrent or the internet or piracy or any of the other things that they thought they made illegal, but just keep happening. Who leaked John Bolton's book onto the internet? Oh. Doesn't seem to work. But again, these non-technical people who don't understand Bitcoin believe that the government can just pull a magical switch and get rid of Bitcoin. The government is something that those who has something. Here we go. The government has something that those who work with virtual currencies don't have. Rogers said, "It's a gun." Oh, that's hilarious. Good luck with that. They haven't stopped BitTorrent and they won't stop Bitcoin. Making it illegal would only draw more attention to it and make it more popular. It's known as the Streisand effect over here on the internet. You know, the internet. A key thesis for Bitcoin's long-term bull market just got a knock. The popular narrative that argues the massive stimulus programs from the Federal Reserve launched to counter a coronavirus-induced recession could hyperinflate the economy and fuel a major rally in Bitcoin. However, that bullish theory, which suggests the cryptocurrency would be viewed as a hedge asset in dire economic times, was dealt a blow by recent data from the U.S. Central Bank, because you can trust them. The data suggests inflation is likely to remain absent for some time, and in fact, the probability of the U.S. economy slipping into deflation is rising. There's a 78.6% chance of deflationary pressure for the U.S., the highest since 2008, according to the St. Louis Fed's Deflation Risk Monitor. As tweeted by a financial correspondent at Reuters, the Fed's favored inflation measure, below right, the core personal consumption expenditure, has also declined to an 8-year low of 1%. So it looks like we might not have that inflation everyone's looking for just yet. Check out the worldcryptonetwork.store where you can get your own Treasures Don't Float t-shirt. I finally got mine in the mail yesterday. Here it is right here. Treasures Don't Float. So I would agree with the other poster. It does seem like it's a little tight. I ordered a large. Probably could have gotten away with an extra large. Fabric does seem soft. I think the printing's nice. Looks good. I like the blue color. You can also get it in another color. And some of the other t-shirts we have in black. So check out the World Crypto Network t-shirts at worldcryptonetwork.store. Of course, it's obvious by purchasing this t-shirt, you're helping support the network, but you get a t-shirt. So it's like donating $6, but you get to keep a t-shirt. So pretty cool. Check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Spreaker, Overwatch, many other places where podcasts are heard. You can check out yesterday's episode. It's already up to date. We've also got a new interview with Team Satoshi. Check it out from the Lightning Conference 2019. Brand new, never before seen interviews still being released every week by the World Crypto Network, even though we can't travel at all. No one can travel. Even going to the dentist might get you killed. But it's a risk worth taking. Maybe. Check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast. But yes, Team Satoshi is a very cool team. They're like a cross-country running team. They're spreading the word about Bitcoin while they're logging those miles and in Europe, probably kilometers. So check out our interview with Team Satoshi and all they're doing to support Bitcoin and practicing physical fitness. Good stuff. Checking out the price of Bitcoin. Let's get a refresh. Make sure we've got the latest data. Looks like we did see that spike go upward, but it did not fill in that candle. Looks like about a half full candle trying to get back to 9,200. And sadly, it looks like it's failing. The price of Bitcoin is down 1.12% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,153, a high of 9,349, and a low of 9,054. That's $1 for 10,925 Satoshis. Checking out our other top stories here. Just pause to drink some tea. It's tough when you don't have a co-host or commercials or a break or anything like that. You just have to kind of talk straight. So trying to take more breaks and drink more tea. Jack Dorsey has floated decentralized fact-checking at Twitter. Here's what that could look like. And this is a really interesting story. We've continued to see this happen. Facebook is sticking with the traditional defense. Facebook says, we're just a platform. People come on our platform and they spread hate, and we think that's okay because we're just a platform, right? It's pretty obvious that's not going to work. He's running out of time for that defense. It's getting worse and worse all the time, especially the recent story where they took money for spreading the hate, which has happened over and over again, trust me. So they even had targeting terms where you could target towards hate, which again, they knew they were doing and they did it anyway. Twitter, on the other hand, is going the other direction. Twitter just might become the verified web, right? Where every statement is fact-checked, maybe not even by a computer, but by a quasi-automated / human system checking everything. Pretty much like a Big Brother nightmare, right? And one person or one computer's idea of truth may carry the entire network, right? This could be a thing where at first it's a good idea and they were marking things that were obviously false, but then it became a bad idea and they started marking other things. It's pretty obvious that's a possibility here. I also want to remind everyone once again that you should read Neil Stephenson's fantastic book, Fall or Dodge in Hell. It's just great. And unfortunately, I went to the Wikipedia entry to try to refresh my memory and really give you the juice on the book. But the Wikipedia focused on what I think is an interesting part of the book, and certainly it's most of the book, which is about kind of the digital afterlife and the ability to upload your brain to a world, and then the question of what that world would look like and what the world that was busy preparing all the servers and stuff to keep your virtual world of after-death life running, what that world would look like, right? So there's a lot of great stuff in this book. But I want to focus on the incident in Moab, Utah. In the beginning of the book, and this kind of sets up the rest of the book, there's an incident in Moab, Utah. I know, Moab, mother of all bombs, right? No, that's not what it means. This is a place that existed before that lovely acronym and that terrible weapon, right? It's a bunker buster. But Moab, Utah was cut off from the internet. Someone cut them off. Then a series of people on the internet claimed that Moab, Utah had been destroyed by nuclear weapon. They produced a video of someone on a flight.
I found this on the web. So do people on the internet claims that Moab, Utah? Check it out.
Okay. The computer's going to go check it out. It's such an important claim. I didn't say the magic word. Oh, well. Anyway, they've wiped Moab, Utah off the internet, and now they've claimed that it's been wiped off the earth. One man flying across the country showed them a video that he claimed to have taken out the window of a mushroom cloud. No one's been able to contact Moab, Utah, right? But one guy in the book, figures what the heck, drives out there, and there's nothing wrong. The people of Moab, Utah are going on about their lives. They're on a boat trip. They're hanging out in the downtown. They just don't know that they've been destroyed by nuclear weapons. So, of course, he reports this, and everyone reports it, and they say, hey, it was a hoax. It was a really good hoax. It was a really expensive hoax. It was a really great hoax. They're not even sure why someone did it. There's somebody gained advantage somewhere because of this hoax. But what it does is it destroys the idea of truth in the book. Half the people believe that there was a nuclear bomb at Moab, Utah, and about half the people believe that there was not a nuclear bomb at Moab, Utah. And across the internet, which as we know is either the greatest source of knowledge or the worst source of knowledge, many people are dedicated to spreading the hoax. Many of the hoaxsters just continue to believe no matter what they're shown, no matter that they're shown live video of Moab, Utah talking to the residents, no matter that they reconnected their internet and suddenly everyone's back online, they're all fine. They continue with this idea that Moab was destroyed, and it kind of fractures their society. So one of the things that they try to do to fix this problem is to drown it out with noise. One of the witnesses of this event, that people have been attacking her, So one of the solutions to stop her from being attacked on the internet is to attack her like 1,000 times more, like 100,000 times, like 1,000,000 times, to put out every possible ridiculous rumor until no one can believe the rumors about this woman because everything's out there, right? They flood the zone, right? This also backfires. They create so much misinformation that pretty soon no one trusts the internet anymore at all. So they kind of create a new internet where instead of going directly to the feed, which would be absolute garbage, insufferable, terrible, inscrutable garbage, everyone goes to editors now. So you get an editor who will go out there and find news stories that are true that you'd like to read, and they'll bring them to you. In the same way, the editor will edit your feed so people can keep an eye on what you're actually doing, not all of these false rumors that are probably spread by rumor bots that just go around and drive up the rumors. You know, they just creating their own ecosystem of lies and doing it so well. And to this, the people in the book, and again, this isn't even really the whole point of the book. This is one of the very small points. So I don't think I'm revealing that much. But again, you had a chance to read this. I've told you about it a dozen times. I read it in like 3 or 4 days. It was great. Stephenson's been nailing it his last couple ones. 9 Eves. 9 Eves was also really good. So yes, the solution, they pretty much come up with the verified web, right? Where all the facts now are checked and everything links together, and that's the way to do it. But then no one wants that. No one wants the verified web. They want this editor thing. So they go a level above it, and there's still lots of misinformation, but now there are editors. And this reminded me very much of what Jack Dorsey is proposing here for fact-checking Twitter. Like, yes, I think it needs to be done. It's going to be done. Doesn't matter what I think. But as an alternative to Facebook's wide open platform idea, Jack has gone to the complete other end of the spectrum with this locked down truth machine that he wants Twitter to be. So it's a very interesting discussion going on. You might land, far left or far right on the spectrum. You might agree with Jack. You might agree with Zuckerberg. You might be in the middle. You might think they're all bad. But anyway, I think this is a really important thing that's happening around us right now. The idea of whether it's just a platform or whether it should be a controlled, fact-checked, perfect platform. And then, of course, fact-checking is very difficult because what does it really mean? Whose facts are you going to use? So we're keeping an eye on this story. This just came out this morning, so I wanted to talk about it. And hopefully you guys will join me in the comments and the chat. Add your own opinion. What do you think about the verified web? Does it need to be this way? Like, would it confirm the same way that Facebook using real names ensures that when you write me a message, you're writing a message to Thomas Hunt, because Facebook's verified in some ways. Is that what we need for the entire internet? Does the entire thing need to be locked down so we can say, oh, this fact came from a history professor and he read it in this book, so that's fact-checked. This fact came from a random 16-year-old and he made it up, so that's fact-checked. Does it all need to be fact-checked? Can it all be wild and free? Is there a place in the middle where we can meet? I think so, but I think that we're going to do both extremes until we figure that out. So, and now here's the news. I'm going to drink some tea first. Checking in with the price of Bitcoin, 9,143. Still below that all-important 9,200 level. Looking at it now, we have the half-filled green candle and a small red candle that has joined, perhaps stopping that short-lived rally. And now, here's the news. Imagine if Obama's Treasury Secretary had sent checks for $1.4 billion to 1 million dead people and had no plan to recover the money. Would he perhaps be fired? And a stunning announcement that Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, in addition to not telling us the names of the businesses who took taxpayer money, also sent $1.4 billion to dead people with no plans to get it back. Well, maybe you shouldn't have sent it in the first place. Maybe you should have done a better job. Shocking report on the Treasury Secretary. In normal times, if a single person in charge of a department had wasted $1.4 billion, just imagine lighting it on fire. It's about the same. Wouldn't they be fired? Wouldn't they get rid of him? Shouldn't we be up in arms? I guess there's too many other dead people in the street to worry about right now, but you really think we'd be up in arms. Shout out to Joint Specialist. Thanks so much for tweeting the story yesterday. And sorry to everyone, I put itcoin. I copied it wrong. It was a copy and paste fail. I fixed it in a couple places, but it's still out there. So again, mistakes happen. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut to begin coronavirus travel quarantine for hotspot states. That's right. They won't let you back into the state if you visited one of these hotspot states. I got some interesting comments on this. Shout out to Steve. He says that Tone is very unhappy about this. And I told him, well, the virus is real. It's time to stay home and wear a mask if you go out. Steve says that Tone has gone to Porkfest. He's a pro-Trump, pro-going out, and committed mask denier. He's still likely to be right about 7,000, though. He's probably got him there. And I say, yeah, it sounds like he's going to get the virus. So not a good time to be a mask denier going to a libertarian convention. That's it's pretty much outside. It's a tent convention. So that's probably pretty safe. But, of course, if you're in one of those tents and no one is wearing a mask, you're pretty much in a virus machine. So you're going to get the virus. And it sounds like New York might not even let you back in. So not a good time to travel. A good time to stay home. It's difficult. It's maybe a little philosophical. It's maybe a little too much for everybody. But yeah, this is what your life is. This is what your life's about. Like staying home, reading books, watching movies, endless TV shows. I don't know. Again, we're all going to go back on this, but you think in your mind, you're like, the minute we get out of this thing, I'm never going to watch a long TV episode marathon binge again, right? I'm done, especially old shows or especially things I've seen before. Or these, you always think you're going to change, but no, you're a TV watching human and you're going to keep watching TV even if this thing ends. But it's a nice idea to say that, yes, once we get out, it'll feel very free. And a lot of people will want to go out and start doing things again. And I look forward to that. And as we stay home, that's something we can think about and look forward to. But if we go out too early, if we go out without a mask, if we go out all randomly and illogically, then we could die. Then other people could die. Then it doesn't much matter if you want to go to a movie theater or a bar or a concert. It's kind of empty. So Robert Reich says, today marks 7 years since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act. Since then, states with a history of voter suppression have closed 1,688 polling places throughout the South. It couldn't be more blatant. And as you can see right here, they have the numbers of polling places closed. Note there seems to be none in the North, hardly any in the West, except for the racist state of Arizona that famously denied Martin Luther King Day as a holiday. Nice stuff, Arizona. Even John McCain siding with Arizona on that. 214 here in, I'll get this wrong, I think it's Georgia, maybe Alabama. I'm going to say Georgia, this one. I don't know. These are hard. The southern states are hard. Anyway, let's keep moving. Attorney General William Barr told House lawmakers on Wednesday that he had ordered antitrust staffers to investigate 10 proposed mergers in the cannabis sector because of his personal dislike of the industry. Can't we get rid of this guy? He doesn't like a brand new billion-dollar industry, so he probes their mergers for antitrust. Can't we get rid of him? Isn't it enough? I didn't think he ever should have been allowed in the first place. That was a huge mistake by the Democrats. They should have laid down on the railroad tracks and blocked the train. But can't we get rid of him now? Isn't it time? In Texas, Governor Abbott is pausing the state's reopening plan. You can't just pause it, man. You got to go backwards and try to solve the problem. Nobody's reopening anytime soon. This is a joke. We all knew that when Texas and Florida reopened too soon that there'd be a second wave of coronavirus and many more of their people would die because of this mistake in reopening too quickly. We said it on this channel many times, over and over again, and now we're right, and it doesn't feel good at all. It's a terrible right feeling. It's still right. Here's the photo of the noose found in the garage at Bubba Wallace's garage at NASCAR. Does seem to most definitely be a noose. Remember that a noose is a slip knot. So if you tried to use this garage pole, it would tighten down on your hand. So this is not an efficient knot to use here. Certainly you could tie a normal kind of knot, create this kind of loop. That would be easy to pull down. The FBI checked more than 1,100 other garages. They didn't find of NASCAR garages in other locations, and here at the site, they didn't find any other ones that were fashioned as nooses. Even so, the FBI giving us all the details, they found 9 that had been tied into knots, just so you could grab onto the knot and pull the door down. This noose was not tied recently, however. They found out it's been there at least a year and a half. So a long time ago, somebody tied a noose, and now with all the news stories and everything, it became a massive story. But really, it led to good things. It led to that outpouring of support for Bubba Wallace, the only African-American driver in NASCAR. It led to that amazing, touching scene where they pushed his car to the front of the line. All of the drivers and pit crews and everyone else got out there and marched with the car in solidarity. So it's a negative thing that turned out to be a positive thing. Maybe there's some overreaction, but a lot of people are sensitive right now. This is a very dangerous, hate-filled symbol, reminding people of the lynchings of the before the Civil Rights Movement, before the Jim Crow movement, of post-Confederate slavery, and of course Confederate times and times before that. So remember Tesla. Tesla gave their workers permission to stay home rather than risk getting COVID-19. Then it sent them termination notices. Great job, Elon Musk. Way to show respect for your workers. More and more this Elon Musk thing is being penetrated. He's not quite the good guy that his public image shows him to be. He's a lot more like Steve Jobs. Maybe he accomplishes great things, but he destroys people to get there. So we have to gauge how much destruction is worth how many good things. And you have to gauge that for yourself. Masks do not cause hypoxia. Here's a doctor right there. He's got the oxygen meter. He's wearing a mask, and he's not having any oxygen problems. If masks caused oxygen problems, doctors and nurses have been wearing masks all day long at their shifts for years. People doing surgery wear masks all day long. Somehow their brains still function to give you the surgery. It's amazing. So no, wear the mask. It's not cutting off your oxygen. It's just you're really stupid. You need to think more about science. Seth MacFarlane says, the amount of time and energy required to debunk bad science/conspiracy theories on social media kind of makes you think we'd be better off without the aforementioned social media. So here Seth would be arguing for Twitter's vision of the fact-check verified web, which might be better off. We do seem to have a lot of unfact-checked random bullshit driving us down. Paxful has overtaken local bitcoins for the first time, likely because local bitcoins is not very local anymore, as you can no longer use it as a matching service to meet someone in person to trade them dollars for Bitcoin. Likely Paxful has passed them because they offer many other services, including gift cards. Gift cards are very popular. For a lot of reasons. I thought this was funny. Of course, I kind of thought this was going to happen when it came out. I guess here's Jameson's Lop's tweet from May 19th, 2018 saying Satoshi's rolling in their grave. But I remember this story coming out. Someone came out with AML Bitcoin, and it was going to be an AML, KYC. All of the verifications were going to be true. But of course, they were selling an ERC20 token with the promise that later on they would develop AML KYC Bitcoin. And it seemed really obvious to me at the time that their initial token, this BS ERC20 token, didn't have the AML KYC and was probably illegal. And now here it is. The DOJ indicts the founder of anti-money laundering Bitcoin for money laundering. Oh, we could have predicted that years ago. Hilarious story. And again, just on its face, when you looked at the project and they said, okay, we're building an ERC20 token that we're selling for money, your money. And later on, we're going to build an AML compliant Bitcoin. I was like, why don't you just do the AML compliant one now? Then you wouldn't be in violation. But they didn't think they were going to get caught. And it turns out that they did. It doesn't sound like proof of stake is happening anytime soon on Ethereum. A joint data center venture between Consensus and chipmaker AMD has so far raised over $20 million to triple its GPU capacity, but they won't say exactly what it's for. W3B Cloud has Consensus founder Joe Lubin and his chief of staff as directors. So it does seem, once again, we've talked about this for a lot, if Ethereum was to actually switch to proof of stake, they would be screwing over all of the Ethereum miners who have supported them and gotten them to this point. That seems like an obvious mistake, now made even more obvious by a deal with AMD, raising $20 million to triple their GPU capacity. What do you think AMD is going to be using those chips for? Staking? I know, staking doesn't require lots of chips. They're going to use them to mine Ethereum. So yes, Ethereum is not switching to proof of stake, according to Grubels and according to this sweet deal with AMD. Check out the article on Coindesk.com. AMD-backed blockchain project amassing 20,000 GPUs, but won't say why. Thought this is funny, a little meme here from Psychedelic El Barto. This is Coinbase. Funding Bitcoin development? No way. Taking advantage of retail traders? Yeah. Good stuff. California has set a new rule requiring zero-emission trucks, meaning that half the trucks sold in the state must be zero-emission by 2035, all of them by 2045. They're worried about the air quality in California, that children sometimes can't play outside on certain days because the air quality is so bad. So once again, everything is connected. The butterfly effect is real. These trucks putting out garbage into the atmosphere makes it so children can't play. Everything is connected. It's like we're in a closed system, and everything we do affects something else. Gene Epstein says, my favorite quote from George Orwell, born 117 years ago today, there are some ideas so absurd that only an intellectual could believe them. No ordinary man could be such a fool. Reminds me of fiat money. Check out an awesome picture from 1986. Gosh, hard to believe it's that long ago. This is the downtown in Las Vegas. This is a view from the top of the Plaza Hotel. And this is not the Strip. This is the downtown. And the reason it doesn't look amazing like this anymore is they put a big dome over the street here. And this is the place that has the big ceiling with all the graphics on it. And it looks nice, but it doesn't look like this. Also, they tore down the Las Vegas Club. Oh, what an awesome entrance that is right there. The baseball player, the gold pillars. But they tore this down to build the brand new Circa, which is going to be the first new casino opened in this area for a long time. Glitter Gulch is also gone. This lady's been moved to a different spot. This guy's still there. He's been refurbished a couple times. This is like a big gift shop now, I think. This is the Golden Nugget right here. This is the Four Queens. Strange. It looks like they've moved. I think they might have moved. Or I'm looking at it from the wrong side of the street. But I'm pretty sure the D is down here. And it used to be the Fitzgerald. So a very classic photo there of the downtown Vegas before they put that big dome up. Not sure about that dome. Also, Las Vegas news. Why not? We're Las Vegas people, right? Here's the building of the Raiders Stadium. This is Allegiant Stadium. It's another company. Who cares? But this is the Las Vegas Raiders Stadium. It's down there by Mandalay Bay, kind of. It's across the freeway, but truly magnificent. I love this stop motion animation type thing where they take all the pictures and put them together. And obviously it takes a lot of planning and detail to set up this camera and keep it running, probably for about a year it's been. But what a magnificent thing just to watch this amazing technology stadium be built in the middle of the desert. All these cranes, look at the cranes wiggling. I just think it's great. Of course, we'd love to have music here, but YouTube is very much against playing any kind of music. They seem to have given up that fair use right. It's funny, on the radio, you can't stop them from playing music. They'll always play music for anything, but not here on YouTube. So there it is, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, home of the Las Vegas Raiders, once we finish stealing them from Oakland. Look at that. They're bringing in the parking lot there. They're smoothing it out. I love it how it used to have all those trailers on this spot, and now it's just going to be parking. The stadium has the field slides out on a tray so that it can get sunshine, that it slides back in. It's pretty amazing. Originally, they thought the roof was supposed to be translucent, but it didn't quite turn out that way. Probably good for the heat. Try to put some white on that roof. But there it is, Las Vegas Raiders. Amazing, huh? And I think they have one more shot. There it is at night with the neon lights. There's that field thing that pops out. You could see it there in that last shot. Down across the freeway from the Mandalay Bay, all by itself. No doubt this is going to be a huge neighborhood someday. They're going to build a bunch of casinos there. But there it is, just a little fun for you. Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, home of the Raiders. I'll likely get to go there for maybe a college football game. They're sharing the stadium with UNLV, or maybe a concert once they have concerts again and all that. But yes, Raiders games will be very expensive. It's possible I might get to go to a preseason game in a couple of years, but even that is very unlikely. So maybe somebody could get me one of those sweet luxury boxes, and I could go as your guest. So keep an eye on that. Anybody that's got a hookup on Raiders tickets. We've got more Las Vegas news today. This is the side of Resorts World. I'm not sure if this is real world or just a rendering, but they are building a full building-wide video screen on the new Resorts World building, and I hope it looks this cool. I'm not certain this is actual real world. Pretty sure this is a rendering, but yeah. There's another one called the Palms that recently put up looks like a 4K, might be 8K video screen all the way down the side of their building. That's pretty amazing. So here's our buddy Mark in West Plano, Texas. He's sanitizing the theaters for people to go to movies again. And nothing against Mark. He's doing a great job sanitizing here, but it just doesn't look very appetizing. These are those really nice leather type chairs that they have at movie theaters now, and you can lean back and everything, but oh, who really wants to go here? You know what that's going to smell like. It's going to be like going to a movie in a doctor's office. And then maybe later you get to go to a doctor's office all because you went to a movie. That's not a good deal. Here's Joe Biden talking about Trump. He says it's amazing that he hasn't grasped the most basic fact of this crisis. To fix the economy, we have to get control over the virus. And this is what I've been saying this whole time. This is what all the scientists have been saying. And we know it's unfortunate, it's uncomfortable, but something about math people, computer people, we really understand order of operations, right? If you do it out of order, it's pretty clear that the remainder is going to be a bunch of people that still have the virus. And they're going to go out there and you're going to multiply and it's going to go up. So let's listen to Vice President Biden.
He still hasn't grasped the most basic fact of this crisis. To fix the economy, we have to get control over the virus. Say it again, to fix the economy, we have to get control over the virus. He's like a child who can't believe this has happened to him. All his whining and self-pity. Well, this pandemic didn't happen to him. It happened to all of us. And his job isn't to whine about it. His job is to do something about it, to lead. If I have the honor of being president, I promise you I will lead. I will do everything I can to take responsibility and ease this burden on you and your families. I'll put your family first. That will begin with a dramatic expansion of health coverage and bold steps to lower health care costs. We need a public option now more than ever, especially when more than 20 million people are unemployed. That public option will allow every American, regardless of their employment status, the choice to get a Medicare-like plan. It'll force private insurers to keep premiums low, offer better coverage, because for the first time, they'll have to compete for your business against a public insurer that doesn't have to make a profit. We're going to lower premiums for people buying coverage on their own by guaranteeing that no American ever has to spend more than 8.5% of their income on health insurance. And that number will be lower for lower-income people. All the detail of this plan will be laid out in the next few weeks. We're also going...
Well, I wish the details were already on his website, but it's nice to see someone who wants to take responsibility and who wants to lead. While I totally agree with the public option, I'll refer them back to the same thing I said during the Obamacare negotiations. During the Obamacare negotiations, Obama negotiated from a position of weakness. He gave up on Medicare for all. He started with the public option, and then he got Obamacare, which allowed the for-profit insurance companies to continue to exist and continue vampiring off the American people. What you have to do, if you want to win, is you have to say that you want Medicare for all. Then, when they freak out, you say, I will settle for the public option, which, of course, as we all know, would crush the for-profit insurance companies. Right now, there are people taking care of your health, profiting off it. They're profiting off of taking care of your health. It's got to end. The way you do it is you set up another company that does the same thing with no profit. Then you crush the insurance companies. That's why they lobby so hard against this. That's why they've convinced you with all that propaganda that you should stick with the people who are profiting off of your health care. Just keep paying them. Just keep paying. Mitch McConnell's home state of Kentucky just allocated one polling place for 616,000 predominantly black voters. Meanwhile, legislation to restore the Voting Rights Act has been sitting on his desk for months. He's counting on voter suppression to win the election. And this keeps coming out, and it keeps being more and more despicable. I don't know how people of great honor and quality could stick with these Republicans when they clearly don't want people to vote. Once you find out that your party has less people, and if everyone voted, you would lose every time, it's not a battle of ideas anymore. You're just battling over who can vote. And for you, it's always less people to vote so that your bad ideas can win. That's a terrible place to be. That's a horrible place to be in. I try to improve my ideas. I try to have better ideas, rather than stopping people from voting so you can win. That's dark. A North Texas family was shaken after 18 relatives test positive for COVID-19 following a surprise birthday party. 3 of them are now hospitalized. So again, I know it's hard, but don't have surprise birthday parties. Don't all meet together so you can all get the virus and kill your whole family. 18 relatives test positive. North Texas, you could do better. Trump continues with this appalling, ignorant commentary on coronavirus. If we didn't want to test, if we didn't test, we wouldn't have cases. But we have cases because we test. As you know, we stopped, if we stop weighing ourselves, we don't know how much we weigh. Therefore, we didn't gain any weight. If we stop testing for cancer, we don't know how many people have cancer. Therefore, there's no cancer, right? This is idiotic reasoning. This is from the guy at the top. And it's not like he just said it once and it was a whoopsie. No, he tweeted it, he said it, and now he's saying it again. And if you believe this, I have a magical rock that keeps tigers away. Do you see any tigers around you right now? Therefore, my rock works. You should buy my magic rock. I got a lot of them. Any rock will do. This just keeps happening. I don't know why. We got to teach more science in school. We got to teach more civics. We got to teach more logic and rhetoric. I don't know what's going on. People are just getting dumber, I guess. I mean, Idiocracy. Go rent the movie Idiocracy. Go watch the movie Idiocracy right now. I have it on iTunes. It was only like $10 or something. It's a good deal. I brought it all over Europe, showed it to people. Idiocracy is a documentary about how the world became so stupid. And used to be a comedy and a joke. But now it's real. So really do yourself a favor. Idiocracy. Watch that movie. If you got more time, get me Roger Stone. And then after that, when you're totally and thoroughly depressed, you should watch The Hunt because it's fun and light. I like that movie. I watched it 5 times. Balaji writes, people have no idea how much progress has been made in areas like life extension, brain-machine interface, or CRISPR gene editing. We really need an entirely new decentralized media community with strong tech backgrounds and production values to explain these things. Well, maybe he could make that if he wasn't working on 21.com and he was going to put Bitcoin miners in our toasters. And then he worked on earn.com and he was going to get us paid in Bitcoin for accepting email. Then he went to Coinbase. Did nothing. Now he just tweets all the time. Remember when Balaji was going to be in the Department of Health and Human Services for the Trump administration? And it was so serious that he deleted all the tweets on his Twitter account? I remember a lot of things. Here's Vice President Pence, the head of the president's coronavirus task force, and as Joyce Aline, former U.S. attorney, says, he seems to be on the virus's side. Here's Vice President Pence not wearing a mask, presumably spreading the virus and making all of these people more sick. This is insane. Everyone knows that you try to set a good example if you're in government. You try to set a good example if you're a pop star. I have a very small YouTube channel, and I try to set a good example. I wear a mask. I tell people to wear a mask. It's been a long time. Initially, back in February, I asked a friend of mine on the internet. He was all for the masks. He was in Hong Kong. He'd been through a couple of these SARS, like, there it is, you're breathing together. Let's breathe together. He's been in a couple of these SARS-like outbreaks, and he said, no, here's a study. Wearing any kind of a mask makes less things come out of your mouth, right? Well, look at all those robots. Wearing a cloth mask, wearing an old T-shirt, wearing anything in front of your face slows the spread of this virus by reducing the amount of droplets coming out of your mouth, keeping them closer to you and further away from other people. It's really obvious. It's really basic, certainly maybe a few weeks ago when we were going to reopen the country and everything was fine. I guess then you could be all macho and, support the president and not wear a mask. But now that we've failed to reopen the country, now that Texas and Florida, 2 of the places that reopened early, despite even the warnings from the Trump administration, even the Trump administration official documents said you must have declining cases for 14 days to reopen. They ignored that. They reopened anyway. Now that that has failed, how can you justify not wearing a mask now? Don't you want to win? Don't you want to beat this thing? Don't you want to kill the virus? Why do they want to kill so many people? Is it just for their popularity? Is it just for the money? Is it just so he doesn't have to pay back those loans to Deutsche Bank that come due in the middle of his term? It just keeps happening. I turned on the TV for 5 seconds and it said Trump wants to launch fireworks off of Mount Rushmore, which might set off huge wildfires, which is another way of destroying America. You set it on fire, no one can work, everyone has to go out and take out the fires. Also, then we spread a bunch of smoke, no one can breathe, everyone has to wear the masks anyway, and the world just becomes, some kind of a living hell, right? Local officials who know more about their local community than Trump does have begged him and pleaded him not to launch fireworks off of Mount Rushmore. The entire area around there is very dry and could all catch on fire. But he doesn't care. He only cares about the spectacle. He only cares about the visual. The reality of wildfires in the middle of this respiratory virus just keeps happening. Here's a palate cleanser. These are some pictures from Trinity College Library in Dublin, Ireland. I was really fortunate enough during my travels. I got to go on a little side trip to Dublin for about a week. I went to all the authors' houses and authors' stuff, James Joyce, Oscar Wilde. A lot of other cool stuff happened in Dublin back in the day. This is a spiral staircase going up to the second level. You can see it's probably a useful staircase. You might be able to lean over and get some of these books off the top shelves there. It doesn't look like there's a ladder in this section. Additional photograph. This is the second deck. You can see the top of the barrel-rounded building up there at the top. And you can see several of the cubbies for books. You wonder how they get through this. Several of these bookcases have doors built into them, so you can kind of slide them in so you could get to the other levels and the other bookcases. I think that thing hanging down is like a fly strip. It's not very attractive. And here's another picture just to calm you down and relax you and think about the old days and think about books. Think about the people who get to climb that ladder. The oils from their hands slowly melting the sides of the ladder, smoothing it, and with the hands of scholars up to get those books. This is a very special and magical library to visit. Not this one, but I've had a picture like this that was my Windows wallpaper for years and years and years. I never knew where it came from. I randomly happened to be in Dublin and I found out about this library and I just had to go on a tour. It was really amazing. So check out Trinity College Library in Dublin, Ireland, if you're in the neighborhood. It's good stuff. See, don't we feel calmer now? We spent some time in a nice, peaceful library looking at the books with our friends, the tourists. Of course, it's going to be a while before they have tours there again. Sad farewell to Jenna Marbles. Jenna Marbles has been a funny YouTuber for a long time. She does lots of goofy and wacky stuff. Well, it turns out along the way, she did some goofy and wacky stuff, including blackface. She made fun of Asian Americans, and she might have even slut-shamed some people. So she, of course, took the videos down and feels bad and apologized, but the internet continues to attack her for these videos. So Jenna Marbles announced that she will move on from her YouTube career. She's not sure if she's going to make more videos on this channel or if she's going to do something else, but she wants to put positive things out there, and she feels bad for the negative videos that she did. So I think we should welcome her back because she's showing growth, and that she isn't the person in the past who made these videos. She's the new person who's thinking different. But hopefully she can come back in a little while and things will chill out. But it does sound like the internet is attacking her very, very fervently. So Shout out to Jenna Marbles, a classic YouTuber. The Federal Reserve has put restrictions on bank dividends after the test finds that some banks could be stressed in the pandemic. Big banks required to suspend share buybacks and cap dividend payments at their current levels for the third quarter of this year. This is kind of there's two sides to this. On the other side of this, they've removed all balance restrictions. Banks no longer have to have a certain amount of balance in order to just lend out all the money. Reserves, they don't have to keep any reserves anymore. There's no more reserve requirement for banks in the United States. They were also saying they were going to allow the banks to gamble on derivatives for stocks without the money to back up their gambling. So basically naked buying of derivatives with no money to back it up, just to try to prop up the market and prop up the banks. That's right. They're letting them gamble for free. They're getting free play. Shocking. Hey, check it out. It's the brand new Treasures Don't Float t-shirt, designed by Philippe, and available in the World Crypto Network .store today. Check out the Treasures Don't Float. I'm doing a little modeling there. Of course, it's wrinkled because I got it straight out of the package and put it on. But I think it's super funny, this whole looking at your watch modeling pose. I used to see that in all the catalogs. That's funny to me. Also, for what it's worth, I got a large and it's a little tight. I probably could have gone a size up for the extra large. I think the printing looks nice and good. It's tight. I mean, of course, it's print on demand, so there's only like 2 or 3 of these shirts in the world right now. So you'd be pretty hip. I think it's soft and it seems of good quality. Of course, it'll be wrinkled if you just put it on out of the bag like I did. So Treasures Don't Float. Support the World Crypto Network at worldcryptonetwork.store. Andrew Yang says, Congress, the pandemic is worsening, and millions of people are not coming back. Millions of jobs are not coming back. We need emergency money for the people right now. What is the holdup? What are you waiting for? And of course, as we all know, the Democrats in the House already passed the so-called Heroes Bill a few weeks ago, including a second stimulus for the people. However, Mitch McConnell, the worst person in the world, and the Republicans in the Senate are not allowing it to go to the floor. There are over 400 bills passed by the House that are waiting to be taken to the floor in the Senate, but Mitch McConnell won't allow it to happen. Mitch McConnell, he stole the Supreme Court seat from President Obama, and now he's blocked more than 400 bills, destroying the entire session of Congress. Nothing is happening. The system is broken. The House is supposed to pass the bills. The Senate's supposed to debate the bills. They're supposed to come together for a compromise on the bills and send them up to the president. At least that's how it worked in that 1970s Schoolhouse Rock video, I'm Just a Bill. Now it seems to work. The House passes bills. Mitch McConnell, the worst person in the world, blocks the bills in the Senate, and nothing happens for 2 to 3 years. Great job, government. Another bad story from Las Vegas. At Resorts World, the construction site where we showed you that mock-up of the amazing video screen, they have found a noose inside the property in one of the unfinished guest rooms. Pretty horrifying stuff here in Las Vegas. There was a report that a lot of African-American people are working on the building, so it is possible that someone doesn't like them, so on and so forth. But yes, a noose was found. It's unlikely that this noose is just going to be a garage pole tied in a strange knot. This seems like a serious fuck you. So right here in Las Vegas. Maybe it's time to rename that Running Rebels school near us. Maybe? Huh? I don't know. Wendell Potter is finally coming true. He says, amid America's COVID-19 disaster, I must come clean about a lie I spread as a health insurance exec. We spent big money to push the idea that Canada's single-payer system was awful and the U.S. system was much better. It was a lie. and the nation's COVID-19 response proves it. So, Canada has a better system than America. You were lied to, and they spent big money to fool you. Big money. But now he's made a tweet, so that makes it all better. A warning sign that the 2008-like crisis is approaching. COVID-19 crisis created an economic crisis that is now becoming a financial crisis, jolting over-leveraged banks. Stopping buybacks and capping dividends is good, but too little, too late. To avoid counterparty risk, own physical gold, and I would add, and Bitcoin. So yes, the Federal Reserve has capped dividends and bans share buybacks by U.S. banks. Verizon is pulling its advertisement from Facebook. It's perhaps the biggest brand yet to join the Stop Hate for Profit campaign. Remember we talked about this earlier. Facebook's running an open platform. Anything can happen on our platform, even hate speech. It's amazing. So Verizon is apparently not interested in supporting a platform that just allows hate speech because it wants to be open. This is going to happen more and more once we see one of these advertiser boycotts start to shift, such as in O'Reilly or Sean Hannity or any of the other news people. Usually gets out of control and snowballs. So watch out for that. 10 days ago, Tesla workers organized a demonstration to protest unsafe working conditions in the Fremont factory. Today, Tesla fired the organizers. As Nicole says, I hope this isn't the first time you're realizing this, but Elon Musk is not a good person. And he really isn't. He's a lot like Steve Jobs, where he has great goals, but he's willing to do anything necessary to accomplish those goals. He could have met with the organizers. He could have tried to improve conditions in the factory, but instead he just fired them. This is the same guy who wanted his workers to go back to work during the worst of the coronavirus pandemic, which is still going on, and didn't care at all for their safety. You didn't see him out on the lines working without a mask, did you? Is he working on the lines? Is he? He's not. We know he's not. Remember when Ron DeSantis from Florida took a COVID victory lap? Remember when he said, everything is fine now in Florida? Let's check that out. Hey, look who's standing next to him. It's Vice President Mike Pence, who still doesn't wear a mask.
For weeks and weeks, Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. So we've succeeded.
4 to 6 weeks later.
And Florida again exceeded 5,000 cases.
Potentially the next epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic.
For weeks and weeks, Florida was going to be just like New York. Wait 2 weeks, Florida's going to be next. So we've succeeded.
4 to 6 weeks later.
And Florida again exceeded 5,000 cases.
Potentially the next epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic.
Hilarious stuff from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. It would be a lot funnier if so many people didn't have to die for his ignorance. Even though we're Bitcoiners and we're supposed to make fun of Chuck E. Cheese because they made fun of Bitcoin and they said that the tokens at Chuck E. Cheese were worth as much as the Bitcoins, I still want to say a fond farewell to Chuck E. Cheese. Although they might survive this bankruptcy. This is a restructuring bankruptcy. But Chuck E. Cheese was a great video game arcade in the 80s. It was the place that you went to play skee ball, watch animatronic figures dancing, almost like a little mini Disneyland right there in your town. And you could play all the great games. I remember playing Moon Patrol. That's a classic there. I remember when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4-player arcade game came out, one of the first 4-player games. Later on, the Simpsons arcade game with the 4 players, Bart smashing people with his skateboard. All the classics. Space Invaders, Galaga, Centipede, that's a great one, with a roller ball. And then eventually Street Fighter and all the other games. Chuck E. Cheese was a great video game arcade. They made some changes. Unfortunately, I went not pretty long ago, as it is now, but they'd ripped out all the classic video games and mainly had these new kind of kid video games and smashing things and pushing buttons and winning tickets. And it wasn't quite the same as it used to be in the 80s when it was mainly just video games and a couple of the ticket machines. But a fond farewell to Chuck E. Cheese. I hope some of them survive. A little bit of history. It was initially founded by famous Atari engineer Noah Bushnell in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, as an arcade where you could play the Atari video games. So pretty cool stuff. Classic history for Chuck E. Cheese. Robert Reich says, if Trump wanted the pandemic to end and the economy to reopen, he'd ask everyone to wear masks. But he figures he has better odds of being reelected with a continued crisis, blaming a conspiracy of Democrats, liberals, deep state bureaucrats, and China. The Trump cards are fear and chaos. Those are negative cards. You only play those if you want to destroy everything and you don't care at all about the people that will get hurt. You call it collateral damage, something that happened next to what you really wanted to happen. Trump was asked by Sean Hannity last night at another one of these virus-spreading events in Wisconsin. This time they separated the crowd and put masks on them. I like that. They asked Trump what his priorities are for a second term, and he couldn't name a single thing. This is pretty shocking. It's led many to say that Trump doesn't actually want to be president, that he's running to lose, that he doesn't care that he's behind 15 points because he just wants to get the heck out of town. I remember before the Trump election, Howard Stern, fantastic radio personality, king of all media, of course. Howard Stern said, I don't know why you're doing this, Trump. You got the greatest life. You got Mar-a-Lago. You got a great wife. You got a great family. Everyone treats you good. You fly around. Everyone likes you. Why would you do this? Why would you want to be president? And Howard was right. Trump just wanted to be loved. He thought if he became president, he'd be a president that everyone loved, and he would get more love. Actually, he got hate. Lots and lots of hate. And he can't even figure out why he wants to do this job anymore. On Morning Joe this morning, I listened to a little bit of the podcast while I walked the dog. Morning Joe Scarborough was putting out a heck of a theory. He thought, and again, he doesn't have any evidence on this. He doesn't think it's likely, but he wants to throw it out there as a possibility. Joe Scarborough believed that Trump might drop out of the race, that he might pull an LBJ. I remember Lyndon B. Johnson did not run for re-election in 1968, shocking everyone, leading to a power vacuum and an eventual victory by Richard Nixon. So Trump might just drop out of the race. As Scarborough was saying, a bit of this is obvious reverse psychology because Scarborough thinks the president might be listening to him at some point, which is possible. Not possible for this show, but possible for Scarborough. He was joking around with the president, kind of needling him a little. He was saying, if you quit now, you'd be 1-0, and everyone would only talk about the first election, and they'd say that you're great. And you could say, oh, I gave you the best economy, I gave you all these things, and now it's time for me to leave. Let's see the president describe what he's going to do in the second term. Now, obviously, the first term, he was going to build a wall. He was going to get rid of health care, but replace it with something better. He's only worked on the first half of that. No better solutions have been proposed. And I don't know, he's going to go after immigrants. He's done that a lot. But what are you going to do next? What's your vision for the future? Let's hear Trump's vision for the future. 4 more years.
At some point in the night or early morning, we can now project Donald J. Trump has been reelected the 45th president of the United States. Let's talk. What's at stake in this election as you compare and contrast? And what are your top priority items for a second term?
Well, one of the things that will be really great, you know, the word experience is still good. I always say talent is more important than experience. I've always said that. But the word experience is a very important word. It's in a very important meaning. I never did this before. I never slept over in Washington. I was in Washington, I think, 17 times. All of a sudden, I'm president of the United States. You know the story. I'm riding down Pennsylvania Avenue with our First Lady, and I say, This is great. But I didn't know very many people in Washington. It wasn't my thing. I was from Manhattan, from New York. Now I know everybody. And I have great people in the administration. You make some mistakes, like, you know, an idiot like Bolton, all he wanted to do is drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to drop bombs on everybody. You don't have to kill people.
If John Bolton, in fact, released classified material, should he be prosecuted?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Well, he did release classified. Actually.
All right, so the president's priorities for the second term. He says that he has experience now. He says that previously he hadn't slept over in Washington. Now he's slept there. He said previously he didn't know anybody, but now he knows everybody. So roads and bridges, world peace, fixing the economy, jobs, any of these things? No, nothing. Not a single policy proposal for the next 4 years. Experience. I've slept in D.C. I know everybody. What about the first term? Remember he used to talk about draining the swamp? It kind of seems like he's become friends with everyone in the swamp. If your reason for voting for Trump was he's going to drain the swamp, he just told you he knows everybody in the swamp now. He's friends with the swamp. It's almost as if the swamp has overtaken him and replaced him. But again, no priorities, no roads and bridges, no helping children, no more people going to college, any kind of positive thing you want to say. A peace deal with Russia, peace deal with North Korea, denuclearization of the peninsula, improving reading conditions in Florida. Nothing. He has no ideas. He has no he's not even thinking about it. He hasn't even thought about 4 more years. All he can think is backwards. He thinks experience. I hadn't slept here before, but now I've slept here. I didn't know any before, but now I know everybody. And this is to somebody that he likes. This is Hannity with an easy question. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good if that's your candidate. Whew. No answer. What are you going to do? Easy question. 4 more years. What are you going to do? Like, we know what Biden's going to do. Biden's going to launch executive orders to overturn all the horrible things Trump did. It's really easy. He can just say, I'm going to overdo a lot of those horrible things. We're going to bring back sanity. I'm going to take responsibility for things. Sounds pretty great. Somebody taking responsibility. Remember, Truman famously said, "The buck stops here." And Trump famously said, "I take no responsibility." Great stuff. Shout out to Lovecraft, Isis Agora Lovecraft. She says, "Me in 2010. What if I got paid to do stuff with computers? Me in 2020. What if I never went anywhere near a computer unless I was paid to do so?" And it is funny how it changes with computers. Other people were talking about on Twitter about how they'd fixed people's computers and they didn't appreciate it. And now they don't fix people's computers anymore. I definitely feel that, especially when something could go wrong with the computer and you don't even know what it is and you can't fix it. But a lot of the time I could fix it. So yes, once you start getting paid to sit at a computer all the time, it becomes pretty clear that you'd rather do something else. This also fits in, I think, with the whole quarantine. A lot of us have been working from home, but it's not really working from home like you have a choice. It's working from home because there's a virus outside. So we can't travel. We can't do anything. If you had a co-working space or a nice desk you used to go to and a coffee shop and all that kind of thing, it's all gone. So that's a tough time to be a computer person. Here's another quote from Trump from the interview with Sean Hannity in Wisconsin. Simon Rosenberg says, "Wow, it's worth watching. The text doesn't do it justice." Aaron Rubar describes it as, "He's going to be sure you're president. He's going to be your president because some people don't love me, maybe." And he says that Trump sounds like he's resigned to losing to Joe Biden. Let's hear Trump pity party. Here's the Trump pity party. Sounds like a snowflake.
Here's a guy who doesn't talk. Nobody hears him. Whenever he does talk, he can't put 2 sentences together. I don't want to be nice or unnice, okay? But, I mean, the man can't speak. And he's going to be your president because some people don't love me, maybe. And, you know, all I'm doing is doing my job. Don't forget, before the China plague came in, and it's a China plague, Before that came in, we had the best job numbers we've ever had. We had the best economy we've ever had. We had the best stock market we've ever had, which, by the way, is getting very close to those numbers anyway. And in NASDAQ, it's actually beat those numbers. But we have, here's a guy who doesn't talk. Nobody hears him.
So again, the most important thing to remember whenever Trump speaks, he's always talking about himself. He says about Joe Biden that the man can't speak. A second earlier, Trump said, nice or unnice. It's nice or mean. It's, nice or any other millions of words. It's not 1984. Truth or untruth. There's something wrong with his brain. He can't think of other words. And yes, he's talking about himself when he says he can't speak good. Yeah, that's you, man. That's you. And I love the part where he says, some people don't love me. Because that's really what this is all about. Howard Stern, king of all media, again, from the very beginning told us Trump just wants to be loved. He just wants to be loved, and it's not working. It's not working. People don't love him. Only 30% love him. Just having trouble getting any more. Caitlin Collins at CNN writes, it's difficult to think of another president being asked about their second-term priorities and ultimately providing none, with just over 4 months to go before the election. Like, you've had lots of time to think about this. They had the whole Democratic primary process that went on for 6 months. That would have been a great time to think about what you want to do in your second term. Maybe you could just say you want to serve Putin. I want to serve Putin in my second term, make sure things go good for Russia, just like I did in my first term. Whoops, did I say that out loud? A new analysis from the Washington Post explores how conservative media misinformation may have intensified the severity of the pandemic. And they've got it right down to the number. If you were watching Tucker Carlson, you might have went into lockdown a week before than if you were watching Sean Hannity. So it really does depend where you get your information for and how bad the conservative sources are. This misinformation may have killed large percentages of their audience. It's just what I said. And it's getting worse and worse as Trump first cut off the H-1B visa holders, blocking people from going to school here, blocking scientists and doctors, the people that are going to develop the next Facebook, the people who are going to cure the next disease. They were halfway through their studies. They were accepted to universities here, and he cut them off. He said, nah, there's too much virus going around right now for America to learn about science. We don't want you smart people here. America just cut off their line to international brains. Every international brain is saying there's no way I'd go to school there. Every time I go home, they might not let me back in. I won't be able to complete my degree. I won't be able to go and do the things I want to do in science and other programs. So they've stopped coming here. They're not going to come here in the future. We're going to lose all of our international brains, and you're not just going to be able to convince them to come back in 6 months. These people have put their lives on hold and now can't return to the country to go to school. And it's getting worse because Trump may attempt to force longtime H-1B visa holders out of the United States. These are people who live here, going to school, learning things, teaching things, getting knowledge, inventing things, and we're kicking them out. We're kicking out the smartest people. So we had all of the world's people, and we'll say, okay, we'll only take the smartest ones. And it seemed really obvious. It was, really bad for everyone else. But we're going to take all your brains. And thus the United States became one of the greatest countries in the world, thanks to all these inventions and all these new companies and new cures and new science and everything, all from foreign people who came here and became Americans. And that's our story, right? But he's going to kick them out of the country. He's attacking our scientists. It's almost as if the president works for another country. It's almost as if the country he works for wants America to be dumber, wants our colleges to be empty, wants us to have no more scientists, no more doctors, no more inventions, no more of this outside fire that comes from immigration. One of the strongest things in America for the longest time. They showed an article yesterday. They said, yes, that the H-1B visas add, millions and billions of dollars to America because of all the things they invent and all the companies they start and the genius things they do with their big brains, right? If you were another country and you saw America profiting so much off of immigration, wouldn't you seek to destroy that? Wouldn't you just pick up the phone and call in an order and say, hey, everything's on fire. You may as well destroy a couple more things on your way out the door. Just like Jeff Sessions, who was cutting down people's voting rights as he was resigning. He was like, I've got to resign, but first, let me make sure people can't vote. This guy, everything's on fire. And he's like, let's kick all the smart people out of our country. If we can we decapitate the United States and leave it bleeding and dead on the side of the road? That'd be great. Because I don't care about anything past my term. I don't care about anybody else. It looks like it looks like U.S. Attorney Berman was fired by Individual One for investigating Individual One. That's an obstruction of justice, pure and simple. If it's true, both William Barr and Individual One could get some real jail time. So it's looking bad. And remember, you have to win so that you don't have to go to jail. If the president's above the law, you must continue being president so that you can be above the law. The problem with that magical power of being above the law is that once you get it, you start acting it and you commit a bunch of crimes. Then you can never go back to being not above the law again. And in fact, you'll do anything to stay above the law. And I mean anything. James Carville, I want to check this out. I didn't get to see it yet. It's on the Brian Williams show last night. Political consultant James Carville was on, and he said, every time you call a Democratic consultant, they're on a conference call. These Project Lincoln guys aren't on conference calls. They're out doing stuff. And it has been really impressive to see that the best advertisements against Trump are not coming from the Democratic Party or Joe Biden, but from a bunch of former Republicans turned never-Trumpers at the Project Lincoln, the Lincoln Project. So impressive stuff from Lincoln Project. Bill Gates says the United States isn't even close to doing enough to fight the pandemic. Sad. Over 37,000 coronavirus cases were reported yesterday in the United States, a new daily record. Way to go, Team Virus. I just want to thank everyone for not wearing masks. I want to thank everyone for having family gatherings, for having large indoor parties, and for breathing each other's infected air. I want to thank everybody who's out there spreading the virus, doing their best for #TeamVirus, because they don't like human beings and they want there to be less people. These people are all taking a major hit so that the trees and the animals can be safe from humans. There's over 126,000 deaths in the United States, more than the Vietnam War, and 2.5 million known cases in the United States alone. And today, Trump is heading to his New Jersey golf course this afternoon. Trump is the biggest failure ever. He needs to be removed from office immediately. And again, if you like Trump, he's going golfing today. While your family dies, he's going to go golf. That's great. We've got great news from Zach Borenstein. Finally, some good news. Scientists discovered a treatment that can reduce COVID-19 transmission by 70%. And it's just a piece of cloth you wear in front of your dumb fucking face. That's it. All you have to do is wear a piece of cloth in front of your dumb fucking face, and you could cut COVID-19 transmission by 70%. That's amazing. Sad breaking news. Every single ICU bed in the state of Mississippi is occupied. Every single one. So what happens then is you have to do triage at the door. Triage means try, dividing into 3 categories, separating into 3 categories. Those who will live, those who need medical assistance and could live, and those who, even with medical assistance, would likely die. So triage means you get to decide who lives and who dies because you don't have enough beds. You don't have enough doctors to treat everyone. Usually it's used in a military situation where you have a field hospital, maybe a tent, and you say, well, we've got 5 beds in the tent and 20 guys outside. The ones with the worst conditions are probably just going to die outside. Now, they're saying that in front of a giant hospital building in Mississippi. The people who can't get a bed, they're just going to die outside. Oh well, at least the president is golfing today. At least that won't affect his golf game. I mean, me, gosh, if I was in charge of the country and all these people were dying, I'd feel bad about it. I don't think I'd be able to golf. Not that I'm a big golfer, but let's say I was going to go to play pinball and they're like, President Hunt is playing pinball while people are dying. I just don't think that'd happen. I think not that it would do any good, but I'd try to read more reports. I'd try to have more meetings. I'd try to talk to more doctors. I'd try to get more people on it, get more testing, get more PPE, get people to wear masks, show a good example, right? And I'm just some dude, I'm not, billionaire real estate investor becoming president or politically popular person or anything like that. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could play golf while all these people are dying. I mean, you could try, but every once in a while it'll be like the telltale heart, right? There'd be that knocking. Knock, 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 knock of the dead, right? The dead that are continuing to die while you play golf. It's creepy, man. There's going to be books written about this. Even just the golfing. Scott Dworkin writes, Trump and Republicans who went along with his coronavirus negligence are to blame for everything happening now. And that's true. All these deaths are on their hands too. Like Lady Macbeth said, will all of Neptune's oceans not wash this blood from my hands? And no, it didn't. It drove her insane. Well, she was pretty crazy to begin with, too. We talked about this, but it was funny stuff. The AML money laundering Bitcoin, where they raised a token first and laundered money. And now they're going down. Strange side note. Seems Jack Abramoff was involved. I'm not sure about this link. They might have changed the link on Leo. Jeremy Faust, medical doctor, writes, we are a bunch of idiots. And look at the new cases reported by day in the United States. We can see that it had started to go down. Then we unlocked the country. Everyone went outside. A bunch of macho idiots refused to wear masks, including the president and the vice president. Fucking shocking as hell. And now we've got a new all-time high in new cases. Great stuff for Team Virus. A way to get out there and spread that coronavirus. A way to kill more people. Good job. Everybody not wearing a mask. You're killing more people. Team Virus. America's reputation as a center of innovation for the world's most talented would be extinguished. A foreign power hoping to cripple our nation's human and industrial capacity could not devise a better plan than Trump's plan to force longtime H-1B visa holders out of the United States. This is national suicide. We're doing it to ourselves. It's unbelievable. Ryan Marino says, I'm old enough to remember June 16th, 2020, when the Vice President of the United States said that coronavirus numbers were not going to go up and that it was a cause for celebration. It really is that funny. Angry White House staffer says, this is probably not a White House staffer, but let's just say angry staffer. He says, watching random people on Twitter argue with actual doctors, nurses, and surgeons about masks causing hypoxia makes my head hurt. Shut the fuck up. They wear them for 12 hours a day. You can wear one for 30 minutes at the grocery store. Really. That's it. Open and shut. Wear the mask. Doctors and nurses and surgeons wear them all day long, and they're still smart. Some Americans will never appreciate America until after they have helped destroy it and they have begun to suffer the consequences. We really had it good. We really had it good for so long. We don't remember what it's like to have it bad. But it's going to happen. And then we'll know just how good we had it. Appreciate it. In the middle of all this, the coronavirus pandemic, the massive levels of unemployment, which drove 200,000 or 400,000 people onto Obamacare as they lost their health coverage at work, a ridiculous and stupid backward system. The Trump administration has asked the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare. Speaker Pelosi calls it an act of unfathomable cruelty. Their brief, which does not mention the coronavirus, seeks to kick hundreds of thousands of people off of health care and allow insurance companies to refuse service for previous conditions, for pre-existing conditions that could now include complications from getting the coronavirus. You get the coronavirus, it makes your lungs permanently sick, and now they won't give you health care because you have a pre-existing condition, because the president in the middle of this pandemic asked the Supreme Court to strike down Obamacare. It's unbelievable. So, again, anti-human, trying to kill more people, trying to destroy this nation, almost as if they work for another country. Surely they don't work for this one. 4 years after Brexit, support for the EU surges in Britain. A majority of voters would now opt to remain inside the European Union, the EU, which did better than Britain at stopping the disease. None of the leaders in the European Union met with coronavirus patients at the hospital who were infected and shook their hands, like Boris Johnson did, later becoming infected with the coronavirus himself. Yes, that's right. Don't forget, he shook their hands at the hospital, then he got the virus. And he's in charge of the UK. Garrett McGrath writes, historians are going to be really puzzled trying to understand how the U.S. let the coronavirus get out of control because GOP governors and public health officials wanted to avoid hurting Donald Trump's feelings and because Americans refused to wear masks to own the libs. There's going to be some very confused books in just a couple of years, if there's any books in the future. A bombshell statement to Congress from Aaron Zelinsky, the prosecutor in the Roger Stone case, who says he withdrew because of wrongful political pressure. Jill Wine-Banks, former Watergate prosecutor, writes, there is no excuse for Republicans covering for corrupt Barr. And it really is time to hope for what happened in Watergate. We need some Republicans to wake up and start siding against the president. Remember, for all the investigations by the Democratic Congress during Watergate, it was the Republicans who ended the problem. After the tapes came out, the Republicans went to Richard Nixon and said, this will not continue. We will side against you. Later that day, Richard Nixon signed the single-page resignation note witnessed by Henry Kissinger, got on the helicopter, and left the White House forever. It's just that simple. Republicans need to stand up for what's right before it's too late. Paul Krugman writes, Don't both sides this pandemic. America's epic, lethal fail was driven by the fecklessness of an anti-science party that didn't want to face reality. He writes an opinion article in the New York Times today. America didn't give up on COVID-19. Republicans did. And this is really the end of their party in so many ways. We all know it was over for them in 2010 after the Obama victory of 2008 when the Republicans met together and came up with a new strategy. They said, going forward, we need to get rid of our anti-immigration side. The future is Hispanic, the future is minority, and the future is not being a limited party of white people, right? That's what they said in 2010. Romney was there, other major Republicans. They had goals for the future. Of course, it all went wrong. Trump doubled down on hating immigrants, doubled down on building a wall, doubled down on all of the backwards ideas that were going to doom them in this coming century. As we know, the demographics are moving. You can't be a white-only party anymore, right? It doesn't work. But they went anyway. So instead of going out quietly or perhaps reforming, as the plan was, they're going to go out with a big, big bang. And just maybe take the country with them. Classy. Like that guy who takes the ball and goes home, so no one can play baseball anymore. Just takes the ball and goes. Governors who quickly reopened are backpedaling as the virus surges. Texas governor and Florida governor both reconsidering their stances that reopening and killing people is a good idea. There's another horrible video, this time out of Tucson, Arizona. I haven't watched it yet. I don't really want to. The video shows 27-year-old Carlos Ingram Lopez lying naked and face down with his hands cuffed. Tucson police officers are restraining his legs and torso. He was pleading for water more than 12 times, begged for his nana, and said that he couldn't breathe. He was dying, and they killed him. So it just keeps happening. Definitely check out the excellent article in the New York Times, How the Virus Won. David Wallace Wells, author of The Uninhabitable Earth, writes, "The virus didn't win, past tense. It is winning, present tense. The country as a whole is continuing to fail, continuing to abandon responsibility, continuing to kill thousands of Americans and endanger many more, and continuing to pretend to be powerless." I don't know if it's, I think now we can say that it's worse to watch one of these slow motion disasters than to watch a quick disaster like a plane crash. A plane crash, at least it's like a Band-Aid, right? Whoop, it's off. Just one motion, off. And you have to suffer. And everyone comes in and they say they lost their family and they lost their friends and they lost this scientist and they lost that writer and they lost that baseball player. All these people died in the plane crash. But at least it's over. It's like plane crash happened yesterday and it's over. This one, which they describe as the amount of deaths as a plane crashing every single day for the past 90 days, 90 consecutive days of plane crashes. It does seem like it's worse. And it's worse because you know about it and you know it's going to happen and you're begging people to change and you don't have great powers or any government powers or anything, but you're just begging for it to change. You're just desperate for it to change, but it just keeps happening every day as you expected in a negative way. I think that's worse. Shout out to Mary Trump. I can't wait to read her book. Donald Trump's niece. She's also a psychologist. She says her uncle is the world's most dangerous man. And they've pretty much cleared the way for her book. The family lost the case attempting to stop her from publishing this book. I guess she's in a lot of trouble these days. She was critical of Bitcoin, then she stepped on the whole trans rights issue. But here's J.K. Rowling back in 1997 when the first Harry Potter book was published. And it's a pretty impressive video. She's just kind of a normal author at this point. It's not an international sensation. And although we seem to get in trouble for playing videos, it's from the BBC here. It's a news video. I'm going to play it anyway. I think we should check out J.K. Rowling and just listen to what she said.
So what made you decide to put J.K. on the cover and not Joanne?
That was the publisher's choice rather than mine. I think they thought that J.K. Rowling was a more memorable name. But I think also because they thought it was a book that boys would enjoy. They might have wanted to hoodwink a few boys into thinking a man had written it. But I know that girls have really enjoyed it from letters I've received.
Joanne wrote most of her book in an Edinburgh cafe.
It's very lonely sitting at home all day on your own with a computer. And if you come out and are surrounded by other people, then you feel like you've seen other human beings during the day.
You've got friends.
Exactly.
So tell me, what was it like when you saw your first book in the shop?
That was the best moment of all. Better than anything that has come since was me seeing it, and it was a real book in a proper real bookshop, and it was wonderful. It really was.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is the first of many books Joanne has planned.
There will be 7, and I've just finished number 2. That will be published next summer. It's called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and Harry finds out that he has a certain power that sets him apart from other wizards. There's some quite scary stuff in it as well. I'm writing book 3 at the moment.
Have you got any advice then for budding authors out there who want to write their first book?
The way I arrived at writing a book was that I've been writing for years and years and years, since I was very young, outside school and so on. And I think you need to practice. You need to practice and work out what worked and what didn't work, and keep going, and probably start by writing about things you know about, your own feelings or subjects you know a lot about.
A very interesting little video there from 1997 of J.K. Rowling. Before the Harry Potter craze really got going. She'd written one popular book at that point, had the second one on the way, was working on the third, but this is before the movies, before the madness, all that kind of stuff. Really interesting stuff, and I appreciated her comments to young writers there. Thought that was really positive. So again, 125,000 Americans are dead from coronavirus, and the Trump DOJ just asked the Supreme Court to invalidate Obamacare, saying the remainder of the ACA should not be allowed to remain in effect. Millions would lose health coverage in the middle of a deadly pandemic. So, if you don't like people, I guess if you want them to get sick and lose all their money and all that, I guess you'd want this to happen. So, oh well. Oh sure, Britain. Great idea to realize this now. 4 years on from the Brexit vote, a majority of British voters would now opt to remain inside the European Union. Well, it's too late now. Max Kaiser says that Bitcoin mining is going to give trillions to Iran and Venezuela, while the Western world is likely to face a fatal financial crisis. So other countries are running out of time to get in the Bitcoin mining and holding game. We've been saying for years that the United States should have a strategic reserve of Bitcoin and should be building it. When they got the money from the Silk Road, I said they could have used it in a few years to build hundreds of Smithsonian museums, even maybe building franchises around the country, not just in Washington, D.C., which is so far away from so many people. We could have built hundreds of museums. We could have given childcare and health care to all kinds of people if we had the money from that Bitcoin. But instead, they sold it very quickly, and Tim Draper benefited from holding that Bitcoin instead of the United States government. Max Kaiser says that things are going to get worse with Iran and Venezuela ramping up Bitcoin mining. Maybe a problem for the U.S. in the future. Shout out to Victoria Jones. Check out Audible. You can now get the audio version of her book, Truth Decay, How Bitcoin Fixes This. And it's even read by Victoria Jones in her wonderful British accent. So check it out. You can listen to a sample on Audible, or you can buy the book at audible.co.uk. It's called Truth Decay, How Bitcoin Fixes This. Cool stuff. The coronavirus may cause brain damage in up to 6 out of 10 critically ill patients. British researchers examined 125 people hospitalized with COVID-19 and found that it can cause things like stroke, inflammation, psychosis, and dementia-like symptoms in severe cases. We'd already talked about this briefly, how when people are checking into the hospital now, they immediately put them on blood thinners because the coronavirus affects the blood, may cause clots, which blood clots cause strokes. So it's a very powerful disease. We barely understand it right now, but they're getting more and more clear that it does cause brain damage and strokes by making the blood thick. So they put you on a blood thinner when you go to the hospital. From nose to toe, COVID-19 attacks like no other respiratory virus. David Wallace Wells writes, for many diseases, it can take years before we fully characterize the different ways that it affects people. Even now, we are still very early in the process of understanding this disease. And I've seen a lot of angry, ignorant posts on Twitter saying that the information we have on the disease keeps changing, and that must mean that it's all false. But actually, this is how learning works, right? We have a brand new disease. We start to study it. We think one thing. We think it might live for a long time on surfaces, so we tell you to wear gloves and to use bleach to clean all your surfaces and sanitize and all that. Later on, we study it more, and we think maybe it doesn't live so long on surfaces, so you don't have to worry so much about bleaching all your food from the store and all that. But yes, that's how it works. That's how learning about something new works. You start out with nothing. You make a hypothesis. You test the hypothesis. It's true or not. You make another hypothesis. You test that. It's called the scientific method, right? It's a process of exploration to try to understand the truth, starting at nothing. It's very different than reading a book, and the book tells you that God created the earth, and you just buy that because the book says so. It's totally different. Maybe you have to study more to really get that, but it's okay. You can keep working on it. Meanwhile, a record 40,184 Americans contracted COVID-19 on Thursday. Thanks to everybody for not wearing masks, gathering in large groups, hanging out indoors, and really spreading that virus. Hashtag Team Virus. And here's Florida, where Governor DeSantis has been attempting to suppress the data, but the data is coming out anyway. We can see it rolling diagonally up. If this was your stock, you'd be thrilled. If this was your company or your website and you're getting these kind of views every day, you would be thrilled. But it's not. It's the 7-day rolling average positivity rate. We can see they're now 14% positive every day, previously 12, previously 11, previously 10. Those numbers in Florida are going up. It's going up. In Las Vegas, Governor Sisolak has started the phased lifting of the eviction moratorium. Evictions and foreclosures can resume in full on September 1st. Landlords and tenants are urged to work together and collaborate on repayment plans. So now, in the middle of 100-degree heat, in the middle of the coronavirus, with the president trying to take health care away from the people, we're going to start kicking people out of their homes so they can live on the street and spread the virus. It's going to get dark. Wall Street banks will soon be able to boost inventions in venture capital funds and pocket billions of dollars they've had to set aside to backstop derivative trades. That's right. They're removing the Volcker rule and the $40 billion brake on swaps. Banks will soon be able to boost investments and pocket billions directly because they don't have to hold reserves and they don't have to backstop their derivative trades. They can just make the trades with no money now. It's great stuff. And Brazil is very happy that Germany is giving them money. Germany is giving $266 million to the WHO and the COVID response. Oh, maybe it's not Brazil. Maybe it's just the WHO. So yes, Germany continues to support the WHO, sending $110 million, bringing their total compensation contribution this year to $500 million, its highest in a year. So shout out to Germany continuing to support the WHO as they fight this pandemic. It would be almost horrible and unbelievable to stop supporting the WHO in the middle of the pandemic. Sure, you might have problems with their leadership, and maybe later on in better times we could have a long discussion about that. But to just stop in the middle of the pandemic, that's something you'd only do if you wanted the virus to spread, if you worked for another country and they thought it would be hilarious if more Americans died. The Lincoln Project writes, it turns out completely ignoring a global pandemic is a terrible re-election strategy. That is funny how that works out. Microsoft is permanently closing nearly all of its retail stores. It seemed like a joke the whole time. Microsoft just copies everything that Apple does, including the retail stores, but none of their things ever work out. Anybody still listening to music on your Zune? Could you answer a phone call on your Microsoft phone? Microsoft continuing to follow and continuing to fail. Although things have gotten better for them internally, they've adopted open source and other things. So they're getting better, but copying Apple, still not working for them. Check out Brighton Beach in the UK. No social distancing, no masks. It's the hottest day in the year, but you just want to spread that virus. Richard Dawkins, scientist, says, dumb Britain. Social distancing on Brighton Beach by people of very low intelligence. American friend tells me she gets dirty looks for wearing a mask because Fox News Public thinks COVID-19 is a conspiracy to unseat Trump. But we all know it's a virus and it doesn't care about your politics. It'll kill these people even if they don't agree. Hot action this morning at the Chop or Chaz in Seattle. Great idea to change your name, morons. Lots of big Seattle Department of Transportation trucks lined up at both entrances on 12th Street. Eric Vokeskull was there. He lives in the area. He was just with David Lewis as an SDOT employee, explained what they're doing. They said they want to clean up the park and maintain the art. It doesn't add up. They've brought heavy equipment. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but you can expect sometime today or perhaps at night, they'll be clearing out the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and ending the protesters' little experiment of taking over that block. They've had complaints from the businesses on the block, and as you know, the business of America is business. I think that's Hoover, Herbert Hoover, maybe Truman. I think I'm going to go with Hoover, though, not the FBI guy. So yes, the business of America is business, and God forbid we get in the way of business. So keeping an eye on that story. And we did it. We made it through the news. So thanks so much to everybody for joining us. Please support us on patreon.com/WCN. You could donate like $5 a month. That'd be pretty cool. It'd be like subscribing to a magazine. But instead, you'd get a bunch of videos on YouTube. You can also support us by purchasing the new Treasures Don't Float t-shirt from the World Crypto Store, worldcryptonetwork.store. I've got my Treasures Don't Float t-shirt on right now. It's very cool. No one understands it. I think one of the good things about this t-shirt is it doesn't say Bitcoin in any way, so you can still wear it anywhere you go. And if anyone does understand it, they'll understand that you don't have any Bitcoin because you lost your Bitcoin in a boating accident. Tell people the quick and easy way with Treasures Don't Float, the t-shirt. Check out the World Crypto Network audio podcast. You can listen in the background as you do other things. You can download entire episodes to your phone and watch them offline. Maybe you could go on a hike in the forest and still stay in touch with the horrible political and coronavirus news with a touch of Bitcoin news at the beginning. The World Crypto Network audio podcast. Check it out today on Apple, iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, other places where podcasts are served. Checking in one more time with the price of Bitcoin using our favorite Bitcoin price chart, bitcoinal.com, from our friend DJ Booth. He built this. Isn't that neat? The Bitcoin price is still down. Now it's down 1.5% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 9,153, a high of 9,349, and a low of 9,054. That's $1 for 10,924 Satoshis. Volume is a little low for a weekday, with 3,823 Bitcoins changing hands. The market continues to lean long, with 80% heading that direction. Bitcoin dominance is at 65.3%. Everyone remember your homework assignments tonight. Suggested movies. Idiocracy. It's a comedy that seems more like a documentary about the future being run by stupid people. Even more stupid than today, if that seems possible. Also, check out the actual documentary, Get Me Roger Stone. Roger Stone has been involved in almost every Republican dirty trick. From the stolen election of 2000, he helped lead the so-called Brooks Brothers riot, where they stopped the count in Florida, the count that would never continue. If they'd counted the votes, Al Gore would have won. He also pioneered lobbying and super PACs, creating them when the rules were changed after the debacle of the Nixon administration. Get Me Roger Stone, the documentary you need to watch. And if you watch all those and you're tired and you need something light and fun, I suggest the movie The Hunt. It's the best movie made in 2020. I've seen most of the movies made in 2020 now. There's not going to be that many, so it's pretty easy to watch them. But check out The Hunt. It's just a great, fun, kind of a slasher movie. It's a little violent, but good stuff. So thanks so much for joining us. Check out worldcryptonetwork.store. Get the t-shirt. That's what I did. And we'll be back again in just a few hours for the Bitcoin group. Probably, maybe, if I can find people. It's harder and harder to do these kind of shows on these endless coronavirus weeks. The only thing different about the day is that Friday you have to do a different show. Every other day is about the same. So we'll probably be back in just a few hours with a Bitcoin group if we can gather up the crew and write it and everything. So thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Until next time, bye-bye.